All right, what up, world? So I'm here with DJ Bruce, part of Beat the Streets, and we're going to chat it up, have a conversation. You guys know what it is. So I'm going to let him take the reins and introduce himself and talk to you guys about everything wrestling, everything business, and same thing as we always do. So, DJ, you go ahead and take the reins, man. I ain't going to talk too much.
No, I appreciate it. And I guess kind of the way to start is how to get into wrestling. So I got into wrestling when I was 5. Not very good. The beginning was a struggle, but I had a coach named Jim Walker out of Illinois, as he did for so many kids. He saw me, he asked, I was playing baseball, he asked if I wrestled. I was like, what's wrestling? And that's how it started. And he actually was the first coach I had and coached me up until 8th grade. So I went through, it was Glenbard East, it was the Junior Rams program. It was right after we left the west side of Chicago. We grew up in Humboldt Park on the west side of Chicago, moved to Lombard, Illinois, as soon as my mom can get us out the hood. And then that kind of put me in the Glenbard East feeder program. And then, so actually I take that back. All right, actually, can we start over?
Yeah, man, just talk, bro. Just
cool.
Talk. It's all good.
So I started when I was 5 at the Chicago Park District. And so it was on the west side of the city, but it was an after-school program, and most of the time it was gymnastics. Just because where I was in that park district, that's what they catered to.
It's kind of fun. So you started with gymnastics before you went to wrestling?
So I started with gymnastics.
That's where all the best wrestlers.
And
some of a trend, bro.
So some of it was wrestling, and everybody knows about the Harvey Twisters, but that's in Harvey. I'm on the south side of Illinois, which could have been in Canada, right? I didn't have a way to get there, so it didn't matter. So I wasn't a twister, but I was a Chicago Park District kid. And I met the right people, and they got me to go to different park districts across the west side of Chicago where there was more consistent wrestling. So eventually it went from less gymnastics to more wrestling. And that really picked up when we moved from the city into the suburbs, when we moved into Lombard. When we moved into Lombard, that's where I met Jim Walker. That's how he introduced me to the Junior Rams program at Glenbard East. And that's where I was up until 8th grade. So that's the introduction of wrestling with me, and the Walkers were the first wrestling family that I had in my life, and I'm very grateful for them because they did a lot at the beginning to get me started and introduce me. Their boys both wrestled. Pat, who was a year below me, and Tim, that was a year older than me, and those were my first 2 workout partners, and were my workout partners through sophomore year of high school.
Gotcha. All right, man, just throughout wrestling, like, what are your credentials? That's what everybody wants to hear. They want to know, what are the matches that you won?
Oh, man.
How good were you? That's what everybody wants to know.
So, for me, that's a bitter conversation because I got really good at taking second. It was a problem. Growing up as kids club, I won my first state title when I was in 7th grade. And actually, that's the only state title I ever won. So you win the one, you think the next one's coming, and shout out to Scott Penny and his headlock that pinned me in 8th grade. Ended that dream. And then we moved on to high school. About 8th grade is the time that I actually started wrestling for Sean Bourmet in Overtime School of Wrestling, and that's when everything changed for me. Just being in that room, there were so many high-level studs from Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Iowa. Like, people would drive from out of state to wrestle for that man. He's now the head coach of Michigan. He has all the success in the world, and he deserves it. But we all got started together back in Illinois. But once I got to him, everything changed because I was wrestling the best kids in the country every day as an 8th grader. And it did not go well. I would get beat up every day at practice, and there would be months that I wouldn't score. But I had to figure it out, and they didn't call you. And their suggestion was to get better. And so we showed up every day, and we just kept pushing. And slowly but surely, I went from I've never wrestled freestyle to where I got teched by Jake Werner in my first ever freestyle national tournament to I took third my 8th grade, my freshman year, my first year competing at Fargo. I took third, and I beat a couple state champs that year, and I didn't even qualify for the state tournament. But that's when I found out, like, Illinois wrestling's different. You could be a kid that didn't qualify for the state tournament to go beat a state champion from another state.
Yep.
And that's what opened my eyes to that. And then my sophomore year...
And it's funny, just for the Georgia kids watching this, just because you're a state champion in Georgia means you're going to get that ass clapped in another state.
Absolutely.
You know that. And there's a lot of Georgia state champs that I've known that have done that, and then they go to other states and, wait, you mean this state's a little bit deeper than ours? Yes. It's a little bit deeper.
And no shot against Georgia. And shout
We're
out
getting there.
Shout out to Pete Yates because Pete is my guy in Georgia.
Yo, big shout out to Yates, man. Yo, big shout out, bro.
But Georgia has seven classes, and that means every weight has 7 state champs.
That's correct. It's very diluted.
And growing up in Illinois, we had 2 classes, and really it was 1 because it was Montini, and then there was everybody else. But we found that out as soon as we started competing nationally. And you wouldn't have much success as you were competing locally, like during high school season, but then you're an All-American, and you're got a bracket full of state champs, and they can't even place. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Then my sophomore year, I went back to Fargo. I was in the finals. I took 3rd in Greco that year, and then I was a runner-up. I lost to Tyrell Fortune from Oregon my sophomore year. And that was devastating. I was up 6-1, and then I got turned 3 times in the old freestyle rules. And my Fargo national title, I watched it slip away as I couldn't defend a gut. So that's how I got started. Credentials past that, I did win 2 stop signs. So I do have a freestyle national title. I do have a Greco national title. Shout out Mike Powell. Shout out Beat the Street Chicago, as he sat in my corner for that Greco title. And that's where I found success. When I won that, and I made the first, I guess it was a cadet world team the first time. I didn't actually compete on that team, but I won the spot. But that's actually what attended. College coaches started paying attention.
Why didn't you go to the World Championships?
Money. So like the thing that you don't know about USA Wrestling is you make the world team, but you still got to pay out of pocket.
Yeah, see, that people don't know. We don't know that. We don't know that.
So you make a world team, you find out quickly.
Right.
And I didn't have $5,000 or whatever it was at the time. It could have been $100 if we didn't have it. Like, it wasn't disposable, right? There was a lot of people that helped me with a lot of club fees and traveling and hotels and meals, and I was very fortunate with the families that I were around and how much help they gave me. Like, we didn't have GoFundMe back in the day. We were selling candy bars to get the Fargo, right? So it's just different. And although I would have loved to took that opportunity, I just financially couldn't make it happen. But it was okay, because what I got out of it is college coaches started calling. And the funny story that I have is he was the number 1 kid in my class. His name's Cody Gardner, rest in peace. But he was my freshman year roommate, and I wrestled him I don't remember if it was my freshman year or my sophomore year in Fargo for 3rd place. And he was at Christiansburg High School at the time. And at the time, Kevin Dresser was still the head coach at Christiansburg. And Darrell Weber was his assistant coach. And so they're both national champions at Iowa, coaching a high school in the middle of nowhere, Virginia.
I was about to say, how did that even happen?
They had a big donor that paid them well to coach high school.
Gotcha.
And I don't know the specifics of it, so I don't really want to speak on it. But so they were. But Cody was the number 1 kid in the country. No one knew who I was, but I had Bourmet, so that's all I needed. I wrestled Cody. He tried to stand up in a freestyle match, and I spiked him right on his head. And I didn't know much, but I knew to do that. And so because of that's actually how I came across Kevin Dresser. That's actually how I ended up at Virginia Tech, because that put me on the radar. Because everybody's like, who's this kid that just beat the number 1 kid in the country? I didn't even know he's the number 1 kid in the country. He was just a kid across from me.
Yeah,
and he was a multi-state champ. He was a 4-timer at the end of it, but he was the number 1 kid in the country. But I ended up beating him 3 times. I beat him twice in high school, and then I beat him once in college. But like I said, he was also my roommate my freshman year at Virginia Tech. So he went to Virginia Tech with me. He was wrestling heavyweight. I was going to wrestle 184 my freshman year. We lived together for the first year. Didn't work out for him academically, so he ended up transferring to Ohio State. But he was one of the best friends that I had. He was the reason that I felt okay going to Virginia Tech, because I knew him, right? And I knew that as a workout partner, he would give me everything I needed, and I knew he could help me get to where I needed to be. Big wins, that was a big one. Not so much because of the win, but because it introduced me to Kevin Dresser, and it ended up bringing me to Virginia Tech. So that was one of the big wins. Obviously, winning stop signs is important. But honestly, I couldn't even tell you who I beat in the finals of either of those. But I could tell you who I didn't beat, and that's Jerome Ward, my junior year, my senior year state tournament. He was my kryptonite. We wrestled 10 times. I think I beat him 8 times, but he beat me in the state finals twice.
Oh, so, no way. Like, when it mattered
so who really won? Also, I can't give him too much credit because Jerome was in my freestyle bracket I won. So he's in a national title that I have. I'm in 2 state titles he has. So, who won that battle, I don't know. But we both went D1. We both got out of the city. We both got educated men, the first black men to graduate college in your family.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
I love Jerome, man. I still talk to Jerome. Dude, I want Jerome to come and teach my kids, because why wouldn't I? Like, he's a good dude, and I like to see him succeed. I'm not the type of person that doesn't want to see others succeed. I want everybody to do well. So yeah, that was.
Gotta get one more match going, man.
Right, dude. I don't know.
When you guys are both 50, we'll do it.
Maybe like right now he's in way better shape than me, so I don't think I like the way it'd go. But if I know that's coming, it's a good idea. Give us something to train for. But so I'd say. Talk about big wins. I think when I beat Cody, not so much beating Cody, but it was just more of what that brought to me. And then it was my path to Virginia Tech. I think losing to Jerome was good because for me, I found a lot of success personally from not achieving my goals wrestling. And I'm the type of person that just doesn't sit well with me. And I just can't let that go. And I still think about it. And I can still tell you about how I had a bullshit in the mat call my junior year to lose in overtime. Like, how do you get hit with fleeing the mat in overtime? In the state finals, makes no sense, right? I can tell you on a bullshit call that I got taken down in overtime the second year, my senior year. That one's a little easier to live with because at the end of the day, you got the takedown and I shouldn't have gave it up. But like, I'm 34 years old, that still bothers me. But that's why I'm successful in my business affairs. Right. Because I've learned that if I would have done the right things, that would have never happened. But I know what I did and I know the lifestyle I lived and I know why I didn't get what I wanted. So now, in my professional life, I won't be outworked by anyone. That's why I found so much success as quickly as I have. And it helped me climb the ranks at JP Morgan, it helped me climb the ranks at Amazon, and now AWS. And it's simple. I'm not smarter than anybody, I just outwork everyone. You just won't outwork me, and I won't. I won't let it happen. And the reason is because I'm just not satisfied where wrestling ended for me. And because of that, I just use that to motivate the next chapter of my life. I think it's easier for me to give you big losses than wins because they're everywhere. But I think in my sophomore year, I was at the NCAA tournament. I had to wrestle Jake Warner, defending national champion, first round. And you know how it goes to the NCAAs. Whenever the first round, the returning NCAA champs up, everybody's watching that match.
Yep, I was about to say, everybody's hearing it. Everybody's hearing it.
My friends are ruthless, man. They were in a group chat roasting me as soon as the brackets dropped.
Oh, no, it's a week before.
Of course.
Shit, this is all days of that.
And blowing it up. And I'm like, bro, none of you are at the national tournament. I'm the only one that qualified. Like, how are you talking to me? But they were. My friends are my friends. So, and like also in my head, you weren't convincing me that I wasn't about to beat Jake Warner.
Of course not.
That's not how that went. That went very poorly.
Nobody went to that tournament and didn't expect to win.
And if you did, like, we're not the same. That's fine. Everybody has different goals, but my goal is to beat Jake Warner. But we stepped on the mat, we shook hands, and it did not go well. I specifically remember he ankle picked me so many times that I decided going into the third period I wouldn't be ankle picked again. So I put everything on my front leg and down blocked. But I didn't ever consider that he would just shoot to the other leg and he's perfectly capable of hitting a left-handed high crotch and then teching me. And that's exactly what he did, but I was so set on I wasn't getting ankle picked that I never even thought of a left-handed high crotch. But again, so first round I get teched in the national tournament and I remember going up in the stands and I remember sitting in the middle of nobody. And just so I could be by myself. And I remember my friends sitting behind me and just saying, you got 5 minutes to be mad about this. And then it's fair game. And that's how it went. And I had 5 minutes to be mad about it. And then they started making fun of me. And then it was back to the next one. But that was a big thing for me because I didn't know at the time that'd be the only shot I had at the national tournament. So now we can get to the big losses. So after that, I went up a weight class. I was at 197. And I was wrestling. And I was 21, I was a junior, and I ended up getting hurt. I tore my ACL, I tore my meniscus, I tore everything in my knee, and it set me aside for 18 months. But my rehab just didn't come back. My knee never bounced back, and that ended up being the end of my wrestling career after my sophomore year. So I redshirted my freshman year. My sophomore year as a national qualifier, as a redshirt sophomore, freshman, however that worked out. But I thought I had 3 more shots at it. I never got those shots at it. So for me, I was very bitter and very angry and very depressed for a long time because I had big goals in wrestling and I didn't even come close to scratching the surface of what I was going to accomplish. But then I'm very fortunate that I have, at the time, my girlfriend, my now wife, she saw the bigger picture beforehand. Because if wrestling would have went the way that I wanted it to go, I was going to fight. That was the next path. We fight, we win the national title, we get the UFC, we smash everybody. That's the plan. Yeah, but it didn't go that way. But Alex, I'm very fortunate for her because she saw it before I did. And she's like, you're too smart to just have to depend on fighting people for money. She's like, you want to fight people because you want to, not because you have to. And she made me take school more serious, and I did. And then I ended up getting better grades. I ended up getting a second degree. I ended up getting an internship. I ended up writing a ship with enough time to still fix it, to where my professional life ended the way that I wanted it to, or at least got off to the right start, right? Like I had offers from the big four accounting firms. I could have went consulting. I ended up taking a different job outside of that, but that was because I had choices and I had options. And it was through the work that I did academically that I wouldn't have done necessarily if I would have gotten what I wanted in wrestling. Because to be honest, I was a kid at school to wrestle. I went to Virginia Tech to wrestle. I didn't go there to get an education. It ended up being the exact right place for me to go to get an education, but at the time,
that wasn't
the goal.
Yeah.
The goal was I'm trying to be an Olympic champ, world champ, national champ. You couldn't convince me otherwise, because that's the standard that we wanted. That's what we knew.
Sir.
It wasn't out of bounds because we knew national champions. It wasn't out of bounds, we knew world champions. It wasn't out of bounds, we knew Olympic champions. Like we watched, we trained them, we saw what we did the same practice. Why not us? And that's just where we came from. And it's not even trying to brag, it's just that's the room I grew up in.
What's the expectation?
I found Sean Gourmet when I was in 8th grade. That was my coach until I found Tony Roby. That's like Kevin Dresser, Tony Roby, Nate Yetzer, Sean Gourmet. That's my coaching tree. And there's also other coaches in there. Mike Powell, he's one of the best. Tom Champion, he's one of the best. Been very fortunate to be around a lot of high level wrestling. But like the partners that I could talk about are insane. But I had them since I was in 8th grade. So at the time, it's hard to see that, but looking back, like we were spoiled. But there's a reason why Illinois wins Fargo every year.
There is a reason why. Yeah.
I tell you why. Sean Gourmet. He started it. And if you look at all the kids on those teams, it was all our team. It was like Team Illinois was Team Overtime.
Gosh.
Like, right? And I mean, there was other kids too, but the bulk of us,
and
the bulk of us were the same kids we've been training with all summer. And like he also brought in the right coaches, and he also leveraged his network, and it showed us the road print of how I run my club. Like literally, I just take the best of Sean Gourmet, the best of Tony Roby, the best of Kevin Dresser, and I just apply it to my club. It's not rocket science. Like, why would I think I could do it better than them? This is their full-time job. So I just was like, okay, let me just take the pieces that I feel best suit my style and what I want to implement in my kids, and I just do that. Been working.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Better not recreate the wheel, right?
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. So I know you asked about wins, but for me, like I feel like
wins are relative. Right?
Again, like,
very relative.
I was very fortunate to where I won as much as I did, but those I don't remember. But my losses, I can tell you about every one.
Right.
I didn't lose that much. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I lost twice, right? I lost 20, 30, 40 times, but they mattered, so I can tell you about them. So the losses I know. The wins, again, I can't tell you who I won when I got my first stop sign. But I can tell you who I lost to. But that's just how I'm wired. I'm just built a little bit different, and the losses are what motivate me. But now, like, I switched it. Like, I tell my kids, we don't lose. We win or we learn. Sit. If you lost, that's on you.
Right.
You didn't.
The whole
You didn't get
right?
anything out of it, right? The only way that we lose is if we don't learn from our mistakes. And so now I've taken a step back to with our kids, I just ask them, like, how do you feel about how that went? Instead of me telling them about what my perspective is, it's more of, what is your takeaway? How did you see that going? Right. What did you think went well? And it's things that I learned on my professional life that I try to carry into my wrestling life. And I try to take the best of what I find in my professional life and my professional development and give it to the kids. Because corporate America and wrestling are not that much different. Because why I'm successful in corporate America is because of the skill set that I learned in wrestling. Accountability, like regardless of what happened, it's on me, right? My work ethic, I won't get outworked by anyone, I just won't. Like how to be a good teammate. Like all of this comes from the sport of wrestling, nothing else. Like I played other sports too, but nothing compared to, like it's, until you wrestle, like all my best friends are kids I grew up wrestling with. Right? Don't get me wrong, I have other friends and other people that like I connect with, but it's different. Like when you go through that, it's just different. And that's something that doesn't go away. It stays around for life. And it's why like I say wrestling changed my life because it did in all the best ways.
Gotcha. All right, next thing I want to ask you about is like your professional life and how you segued into what you're doing now, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you got going on currently.
Yeah, so it's the way that I explain it is I wear 4 hats, 5, right? First and foremost, I'm a husband and I'm a partner and my wife comes first, right? So I have a beautiful wife, a beautiful family, and I got 3 dogs, and they come before everybody. And so if she doesn't allow me to do what I do, it all stops. Because without her at home, making sure that our family runs, Can't have it. I can't be me. So that's first. Second, my day job. I work at AWS, so Amazon Web Services. I work in AWS infrastructure FP&A. What does that mean to the wrestling world? I do finance. So I deal with a lot of expenses. So any expense, any dollar spent to operate a data center anywhere around the world for Amazon sits in my P&L. I manage it from end-to-end perspective, planning. So if we're doing budgeting, forecast adjustments, reporting, variance commentary, stuff like that, that's my day job. Beyond that, as of January 1st, I was just elected the Global Finance Director for the Black Employee Network of Amazon. That's how we met. So this weekend, we're in Atlanta. We've been doing programming for MLK weekend. I started on Friday. Friday, we had a panel come in. We had somebody from Amazon Studios moderate the panel. We had the provost of Morehouse College. We had a student from Morehouse College. And then we had the economic developer liaison for Fullerton County. That basically all new projects and investments going on within the county. That's, I think, the third largest within greater Atlanta metro area. Could be wrong on that, but I think that's what she said. She was there as well. And we were just talking about, what does Martin Luther King mean to you? How do you carry that into your day life? And just talking about their experiences. And the great part about that is we broadcast that and share that globally with inside of Amazon. So any Amazonian that wants to see that, it's out there and available for you to go check out. Other thing we did a day of service. So on Sunday, we partnered with the King Center, and we actually did all the prep work needed to pack 1,000 essential kits for men and women that find themselves unsheltered or homeless. And the Atlanta winters can be rough, especially if you don't have a place to stay warm. So we wanted to provide them all the essentials to make that a little bit easier. So we did all the work up front in order to make it easier for, I think it was Morehouse that was coming in. I could be wrong on that, but they had a big group of volunteers coming to actually put the kits together. But we just did the itemization, split everything out, made sure they were individual. So if they came in cases, we broke it down to individual pieces, did the inventory count, made sure they knew exactly how many of what they had so they knew how many could go in each case in order to get to their 1,000. So that's the day of service that we did on Sunday. And then today, we had an event we partnered with the Atlanta Hawks, and they play the Miami Heat today. And so before the game, we had a networking event where we sold 1,000 tickets to Amazonians or one somehow related to an Amazonian, to where you could come, you could do a networking event, you could meet people. There was part of the global board for the Ben at Amazon that could come, that were here in person. So just a lot of networking, just meeting people, getting out, getting to see the people actually doing the work. And for us, it was a way to reward the people that were on the panel for us, the people that showed up at the community service for us, and just to say, hey, we appreciate the work that you did. We want to give you back. We want to give something back to you. And the fun part for the panelists, and what they didn't know, is we actually had a box. And so we brought them up into a box. You were in the box as well.
Yeah, it was lit in the box.
But the cool part about it is it's just not Amazon, right? Like, we're not the only ones doing it. So we leverage our professional networks, and we had Comcast in there. We had Salesforce in there. We had Microsoft in there. We had IBM in there. We had Coke in there. We had the Atlanta Hawks in there. We had Jake from State Farm was in there.
Yeah, as well.
Shout out to Kevin. Kevin's our guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we met. And the cool part is when you're actually on the ground and you're doing the work, it's easy. And when people find out that you're doing the work, it's easy to find out who's doing the work elsewhere and link up, right? And you saw how easy it is. It's, hey, let me introduce you to my guy. Give me your phone. What's your LinkedIn? All right, cool.
Yeah.
We're plugged in. Let me know when you need something. Simple as that. It doesn't have to be more complicated, because everything outside of that is more complicated. So for us, when we try to do something for the community, specifically for us, we try to make it as easy as we can, because we know how hard it can be. And again, like when we say for us, it doesn't mean just for Black people. That's our seat at the table. That's how we got our program in to get kicked off the ground. But I do a lot with Beat the Streets, and I do a lot with Beat the Streets National, and that's everybody. I help my community, but my parents, like my mom's white, my wife's white, I'm half white, there's that. But like when people see me, they see me as a Black male always, right? It doesn't matter like what it is, right? But like I've learned to lean into it because I'm proud to be a Black male, right? I'm proud to be wearing Black excellence on my hoodie, to be remarkably Black on my hoodie, to be in some sneakers with some sweatpants, and something that I probably should be in a suit for. But the reason that I dress that way, the reason that I speak that way, the reason that I carry a designer bag on me at all times is because I'm every stereotype that you're supposed to be afraid of. But also, I'm so good at what I do, you have no choice but to accept it. And if that makes it easier for the next one, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it loudly. And that's not me. I'm not the one that came up with that. Like, I'll tell you a story. So there's this lady, her name's T. Duckett. She's one of the, in my opinion, when it comes to Black excellence, she is everything of that. And she used to be the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. And she left JP Morgan Chase to take over as the CEO of, or no, she was the CEO of the consumer bank. So let me clarify. She was the CEO of the consumer bank of Chase branded. So any retail branch that you walk into, that you go get your checking account or you go get some cash or need to deposit something, she was the CEO of that, right? And then she took a job to where she was the CEO of which is like the top retirement firm that helps people retirement plan. And when she got it, she got announced, but they were saying she's the most powerful Black woman on Wall Street. And she was saying that she's the second Black woman CEO on Wall Street in a Fortune 500 company. And it was hard for me to wrap my head around, one, how is she the second? It was like 2021 maybe, 2020, like it wasn't that far, like long ago. So how is she the second? But more so is like, I want to celebrate you, but I don't want to celebrate you and make it seem less than, that I have to clarify that you're a Black woman. And I asked her, I was like, how do you feel about this? Because I'm going to celebrate you regardless, but I want to make sure it's appropriate. And one, she gave me the time of day, which she didn't have to do. And two, what she said, I'll never forget. And she said, I am who I am. And I don't need to feel a certain type of way based on how others perceive me. So if them pushing me as the next Black whatever makes it easier for the next Black little girl to see herself as the CEO, I'm Black as fuck, right? She's, I'm good. Bank account's good. Family's good. Wife's good. Like, everybody's good. She's like, I'm good. I'm confident in me. So by them speaking down, that just tells me who they are. It doesn't make me feel less than. And that always stuck with me. And that's how I approached the way I approached Ben. That's how I approached what I did with Advancing Black Pathways at JP Morgan before I left, is whatever I do, as long as it's to make it easier for the next one, that's it. That's the mission. And if someone thinks of me a certain type of way because I dress a certain type of way, or I talk a certain way, or I conduct myself a certain type of way, that's on them. That's not for me. I don't even give it energy anymore. Like you saw, like I was in sweatpants and a hoodie today, rocking some nice sneakers.
And I walked in, I felt underdressed. Man, I hope they're not in suits. And I pulled up, I was like, great. I was like, man.
Not one of us are in suits, and it's important. And a part of the reason, and one of the things we're trying to stomp out, is called code switching, right? So for a lot of us, when we got into corporate America, wherever it may be, you got to fit in, right? I can't be my authentic self, because if I am, they're going to look at me as less than. They're going to, oh, that's that kid from the hood, that's a diversity hire. Oh, that's whatever. And I just got to the point, and I got surrounded by the right people that were in my ear saying, no, be you. Don't be uncomfortable to make them comfortable. If they're uncomfortable, that's their problem. Deal with it. Figure it out. What about a strong Black male makes you uncomfortable? So that kid that has a gun might leave it in the car at practice. He's going to leave the gun in the car at practice because we told him to leave the gun in practice because he feels safe. But also the part of the mission that we do is we train cops, right? We have fighters that are cops. My best friend that's the president of my nonprofit is a cop. And it's us pushing that not all cops are bad. There's just bad humans out there. Some of them happen to be cops. But to that kid, he might just think all cops are bad because he grew up in a hood and he knows nothing else because the cops that he deals with in the hood, they treat him a certain... But also, I don't want to be a cop in the hood. It's a stressful job. He just wants to go home to his family at the end of the day. So I get both sides of it. So we're working on fixing that. But wrestling's the vehicle we use to engage them. And so that's not for everybody. But also, this is not for everybody. Like, again, we're very exclusive of who we bring into what we do because certain type of kids might shy a certain parent away. But, like, don't get me wrong, we got kids from the suburbs, we got kids from upper-class families. Like, also, it's wrestling. We got a spot for everybody. But what I love about wrestling is what I love about fighting is once you're on the mat, none of it matters. It doesn't matter.
You can't bring
We're all equals.
You can't bring none with you. And on that mat, nothing but what you're training.
100%. And it's not even training that's hard. At one point, we're going to be equal. And when we're equal and we're tired, what's going to win out?
We want it more.
It's mental. I want it more than you. And I build that in our kids' heads because it's important for them to know. And also, we don't care if they win. Like, we're a very different way we approach the program. I just want my kids to be successful when they turn 18 and they graduate school. What's your plan? Is your plan to go into business? Okay, what's your business plan? Let me help you develop a business plan. Okay, you want to go to trade school? Do you even know trade school is an option? We'll push that too. You don't want to go to college? Maybe it's best that you don't rack up a bunch of debt in college because you don't know. Of course, but like, you want to go to trade school? Look, I got a cousin that works on diesel trucks. And he's got 7 pensions. I don't even know how many pensions he has. But like, his kids are going to be good because he got to trade school right out of school and he didn't ever accumulate debt. He just started making money, right? So that's an option. You want to be an entrepreneur? Okay, we got that. What do you want to do? Let's talk about it. You want to start a nonprofit? I'll show you how to do it, right? Like, when we get to our fighters, we tell them, like, do you have an LLC? Okay, no, let's set it up. Okay, all right, now that you have an LLC, let me explain to you how everything you do in life is a business expense because you're a professional athlete. You have to conduct yourself as such. It's expensive to eat healthy, but also that's a business write-off, right? It's expensive to pay for gas to come to practice every day, but that's a business expense because you're going to invest in yourself to train. Like, right? Like, we're not selfish to say you could only train with us. You should train and get other looks from different places. But now when you got to fly there and you got to buy a hotel room, that's a business expense. Yep. Right? And again, like, it's not that it's free, but it's going to cost less in the end when you treat it as a business expense. And again, you're a business, so we help them. Same thing, you got a contract, let us look it over. I'll call my friend that's a lawyer, he'll look at it, right? But I don't pretend to be their manager. I don't want to be their manager. I don't charge them any money to train, and we actually pay most of them, which nobody can wrap their head around because they're like, why do you pay them? What I pay them for is branding, but what also I'm getting in their head is shifting their mindset because their brand is worth something. Maybe not right now, but I'm betting it's going to be worth something. So I pay them up front. It's not a lot of money, but it's some money to where maybe their grocery bill, maybe their grocery bill's covered this week. Maybe they got gas for the next month, right? And we want to build out our brand so we can pay them quarterly and we can pay them every year. And we pay them 4 times a year and we just pay them for branding. But what we won't do is charge them money to train with us. And we tell them simple, you see what we're doing. You're not in a spot, none of our fighters are in a spot right now financially. And some of them are, right? Some of them have different jobs. Some of them are branding better. Some of them are further along their career. But none of them are in the UFC. So none of them are making 50, 60, 70, 80,000 a fight to where they can afford to pay us as their wrestling coach. Right? 100%. And why would I want you to have to go work more hours when I just want you to show up to train? So I'm not going to have a kid go work out more hours to pay me. I don't need the money. I'm fortunate that I don't need the money. But what I can't do is I can't volunteer my coach's time. So what we do is we do charge, and we charge our kids, and it's simple. It's $50 a month, right? If you want to come wrestle with us, it's $50 a month. If you want to do strength and conditioning, it's $50 a month. If you want to do both, it's $75. And we have it simple. Half of that goes to our coaching staff, half goes into our operating budget. That's how we function, and then we fundraise. And I fundraise most of it, so it's not a problem. But what I don't want them to do is have to worry about, can they afford to train today? Because then we missed it, right? If I'm actually here trying to do the work to say I'm here to help, how am I not going to live it? And like, we do it different. We train super early in the morning. And why? Because I got a job. I got to get on my computer. Like, our head of wrestling and our head of mentoring, he's actually getting his PhD in Toledo. We train in Ohio. So he drives back to Columbus to run practice on Wednesdays and Sundays. He doesn't have to do that. Does it make sense for him to do that? Absolutely not, but he loves it the way I love it. So he does it, and he's happy to do it. But again, I can't ask him to do it for free, so I pay him. Not yet, and I haven't paid him $1, just to be clear. But once spring season kicks off and we start charging for wrestling only, it's going to him, not me. And again, if anyone doesn't believe it, I'll send you an Excel spreadsheet. It's the same one that I built in order to track all my expenses, just to make sure that I know I have enough runway in order to get to the next month. Because I got to pay to rent the gym, I got to pay for insurance, I got to pay to charter my club, I got to pay for whatever else I got to pay for, just so nobody else has to.
Yeah, lights got to be on.
Of course. And again, like, we're very fortunate that Matt Brown opened up his gym to us. He didn't have to do that. He makes it very affordable for us in order to be able to make this as cheap as it can. But also, we're training as fighters for free. Like, it's mutually beneficial on both sides. And when you're around the right people, it's easy to do because they're invested in me and they believe in what we're doing. And it's crazy because now we got a fight team. That wasn't even in the plan, but now we got a fight team because we train in an MMA gym, and why wouldn't they? They just want to get better at wrestling. Same thing, our kids love it, so some of our kids come and train. And the cool part is, sometimes on Sundays, instead of running open mat, I have one of my fighters there and I'll teach a 30-minute striking class just to switch it up. Again, it's just about getting up, getting moving. It's a warm-up. The kids love it. They love it. Or they'll do 30 minutes of jiu-jitsu. They'll love that too. And our fighters are happy to do it because they're getting trained for free. And they're also there for the workout themselves. So them taking 30 minutes to teach kids that never did jiu-jitsu before is nothing to them. And also, like, they're happy to do it because that's how they give back to me. And we do everything. We're trying to commingle and have Ben and Amazon see if there's any like synergy with Beat the Streets, which there is because Beat the Streets is helping kids. But if there's any synergies with DB Train, obviously we push that. But limited because for me, I know what you know, is because we're black males, we got to be beyond reproach. Yeah. We don't get a second chance, and that's just how it goes. I know that. So is my nonprofit set to take money from a corporate donor? Absolutely. Like our treasurer hired me at JP Morgan. He's financially capable. He literally was my boss. So could we do it? Absolutely. But would there be the perception of self-dealing? Of course there would. But again, to help kids. But I would rather not do that and have the perception and have somebody that doesn't like me for something I did 10 years ago make it a problem for me. So I just direct it to Beat the Streets. Because again, what I'm not is a full-time like nonprofit advocate. Because I can't. I have a day job and a bunch of other responsibilities. But what I can do is join the advisory board of Beat the Streets. And you wanted something exclusive, there you go. I am on the advisory board for Beat the Streets National. That announcement.
First look right here. First look, baby.
That announcement will come out officially from them next week. But the reason that I do that is because I love Mike Powell. Mike Powell's the one that found me at the Chicago Park District. Mike Powell's the one that put me in Greco. Mike Powell was the one in the corner with me with Sean Bourmet when I won my Greco national title. Because Bourmet's not a Greco guy, but he was my coach.
So what style's better, freestyle or Greco?
Freestyle for sure. Sorry, Paul.
No.
Sorry, Paul.
Shit.
Sorry, Josh. No. Sorry, Josh. Josh Russo. He's what I'll tell you about. He's the head of mentoring and the head of coaching for us at DBT. And Josh is a senior level Greco guy. He was a U.S. Marine representative. And I'm going to butcher this, but I think it's 72 kilos for the better part of 5 years. And he's the man. And I say that I have a Greco national title. That is true, but me and Josh's Greco credentials are nowhere even close. He's so much better than me. He's technically, he is so much better than me. And also I learned a ton from him. I love when he teaches because I'm sitting there taking notes because I'm learning. And to bring that back to Georgia, he showed something on Tuesday to our MMA guys, and it was simple. It was just, we teach chain wrestling, right? And we're just gonna beat them over the head with chain wrestling until they get it, right. And then we'll move on to defense. But until they can chain wrestle on the wall, off the wall, and they got 6 shots that they can finish at any time, you don't understand chain wrestling, but right. They will, and we're pushing it. But he was showing something, and what he did is he came in the single, instead of coming out in front with the Barzagar, he just said, hey, give him a quick shove forward and then take 2 steps back. And as he has to hop from backwards to forwards twice, his back ankle's gonna be right there and drop it off. How this comes back to Georgia is I was at Pete Yates' gym, Technique Wrestling, shout out Pete Yates. And I was watching his kids do something, and I was just like, I can fix this. I was like, Pete, can I get a couple minutes to show something? He's like, of course. So we bring them all together, and I literally show them what Josh just taught me on Tuesday. This was Thursday. And again, I've never done this in my whole life, but Josh taught me this on Tuesday, as he taught all of our MMA fighters. But he's also teaching me, and that's why we work. Is sometimes I teach him, sometimes he teaches me, but at the end, we're together and we're trying to teach everybody. But I took something that he taught me on Tuesday. I'm teaching it to a group of kids in Georgia on Thursday. I didn't even know I was going to be in Georgia on Thursday. I didn't even know I was going to learn this on Tuesday. But that's the thing, is like, I know that I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know. And I'm never going to be done learning. So literally something that he showed our fighters as a one-off, I'm showing a group of kids in Georgia, to where now I already have kids in Georgia hit me up saying, hey, look, I hit this in the match. like I was drilling with my partner and he didn't know how to do this. Thanks for showing me that. Right. But that's how it works, man. Like, it's just, wrestling's a small community, and when you get to a certain level, everybody knows everybody, and it's so collaborative when you just remove the ego. And that's the thing, and that's what I love about the nonprofit side of wrestling, is there's no ego here. Because this is not how I pay my bills. This actually costs me a lot of money to do it this way, which is fine, right? Like, I don't say that like it's a bad thing. I say that I'm very fortunate to be able to be in this position to where I can choose to give back. But a lot of people aren't, and there's nothing wrong with making money off the sport. That's not what I'm saying. But you know what I'm saying. You know that there's the right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. Yep. Again, I grew up under Sean Bourmet, who that was very for-profit. But again, what most people don't know is I'm one of, if not the only, scholarship kid he ever had. And I didn't even know that until the Ironman tournament. What was that, like in December? So 4 or 5, like, I don't even know what it is.
Ago, right?
Like a month and a half ago. And there's another kid that teaches at Lockport, or he coaches at Lockport. He had a kid in the finals that won it, Braden Thompson. His name's John Hensley. I've known John since we were kids. And he pulled me aside. He's like, bro, did you know that I was a scholarship kid like you? And we were literally, as grown men, talking about at Ironman, that he was another scholarship kid that I didn't know about. And again, what does that scholarship look like? Did they not charge us? Did other parents pay for us? I know part of other parents covered my costs, but I was never part of those conversations, so I don't know what that looked like. Right. But again, like, I never had to know because they just knew that if they gave me a shot, something good might happen. And I know if I come back and I find the next one, something good might happen. And there's a lot of kids that it's not going to pan out for. And there's a lot of kids that it is going to pan out for, but just maybe not the way that they wanted it. Because for me, I wanted to be a national champion, and I never got that in college. But thank God. Because if I found that success,
what would have happened?
Who knows? I know what would have happened. I would have been an average MMA fighter. That's what would have happened. Because I was still battling a knee injury. My knee's still not the same as today. I wouldn't have been able to come back to the level that I would have.
Right.
And then I couldn't do any of the rest of it. I wouldn't have worked at JP Morgan Chase. I wouldn't have worked at Express. I wouldn't have worked at Amazon. I wouldn't be able to do all the great things that I'm doing now. And we're just getting started. There's a billion things I want to tell you about.
Right.
That Mike Powell would probably be mad that I'm a little ahead of the gun because we got to finalize a little bit more than where we're at today. But the things that we're going to do over the next, I'm going to say 4 years, because my seat as the global finance director for Ben is 2 years, and then I'm going to take over as president. I already know it. That's the goal. And so I got 4 years to go as hard as I can, and in that 4 years, I want to make a global impact in the sport of wrestling. And I know we can do it with Beat the Streets because Ben Ryder, that's at the top of Beat the Streets, has the same vision as me. Yeah. So I'm not in a place to talk about Ben's plans, but I know I'm in Ben's ear saying we're not thinking big enough. And I know Ben's in my ear telling me, bro, we are thinking big enough. We just got to loop you in. So again, I can't say too much, but I know that they're the right partners for me. And now that I sit on their advisory board, there's nothing we can't do, because everyone in my network is now their network. And everyone in their network is now my network because we're partners. And again, like, my job at Ben is to support the community. They have so many black kids already. Why wouldn't we help them? But also, why are we just helping black kids? Why aren't we just helping kids? But we are. They're helping everybody. They don't care where you're from. They don't care you don't have money. They actually don't charge you money. It's a great thing they have going, and I think they're in 37 cities and they touch around 10,000 kids a year. And they do things like as simple as I was telling you about their deal with ASICS, where they raise so much money and they get so much in gear credit to where they can outfit a lot of their programs with shoes, knee pads, headgear, all the things that might be a deterrent of why you can't afford to wrestle, because you can't afford a $100 pair of wrestling shoes. You can't afford $50. I don't even know what a headgear costs. But
I'm saying right now, dude, my parents couldn't.
I couldn't either. All my stuff was hand-me-downs.
Yep.
And like, again, there's so many kids that it's cost prohibitive of why they can't participate in sports, and they remove that barrier. And again, they're mentor first and Beat the Streets. That's their mission. That's why I love them so much. They just use wrestling as the vehicle to engage that kid. But now once you got you, now you get the programming. And again, like, I don't act like I'm smarter than the full-time people that Beat the Streets. I just take all of the